Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Perfect, Chetri. Thank you so much for that. I think I'm a little bit too big on the screen, right? Too big. I feel. Classman. Neko. Okay. Now better? Now good, yes. The revoltants and sepoys were on the side of the people of India. That is obvious. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. A very interesting set of topics we have to cover today. Quite interesting. First, Muslim League, then revolutionary activities. Thereafter, we would have to discuss a very important concept, which is separate electorates, which is via 1909 Morlamento and then Home Rule League, plus Lucknow Pact. So small topics, but very interesting in that way. Perfect, Rutuja. Nothing better. Great. Good. To cover everything and join me today, very good. Total number of lectures are how many, Rutuja? Modern history, we will study up to 1947. As soon as I give you independence, I go to post-independence. We wait 1 more minute and then we start. History syllabus of optional is same as GS. No, world history is a little bit bigger. Other than that, more or less it is there. Bal Gangadhar Tilak issue, you're talking about Khilafat. We stopped at Surat split yesterday, with the moderates and the extremists splitting up. You can do that, Rani. We discussed Surat split yesterday. Very good, perfect, Rutija, very good. That's quite a lot of hours, close to 300. Okay. Surat split is nothing but moderates and extremists fighting, and the moderates being expelling the extremists after Firozshah Mehta was hit by a shoe at the Surat session. 1807 revolt was fully independent, fully national. Just Ankush, 1807 has nothing to do with nationalism. It is an independent. All theatres are independent to each other. Ray Commission is nothing but the fact that Indian universities should appoint teachers after looking at their background. Morlamento we do today, separate electorates. Small. This is a very small topic. This is the big topic. Thereafter, then 4 to 5 small topics. This is the biggest topic which we have to cover, which is revolutionary activities. Prelim season, we will have classes. Shelja, don't worry. Why is there problem? Okay. Dates are how much important? Dixit, for UPSC means if you can even write the century, it's okay. But obviously, you need to know that Surat split is 1907. Obviously, you need to know that 1915 Gandhi comes back. These are things which you obviously need to know. Okay. So let's start our discussion for today. And as I said, small multiple topics we have to cover. Tomorrow we bring Gandhi back, or we talk about Gandhi. First we talk about him in South Africa, then we bring him to India, then we talk about Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad. And by Friday, we will be talking about the Rowlatt Satyagrah, Jallianwala Bagh, and the non-cooperation in that sense. Two major movements we'll discuss by Friday. So you are now entering the business zone of your preparation with regards to modern India. Today we traverse a period. We stopped at 1907 yesterday. However, we have to go back. And there's a reason for that. The reason is what I have discussed with you is called political extremism. Political extremism was Lal Bal Pal, and basically it was what was happening within the INC. And how did the INC end vis-a-vis political extremism? What is the outcome of political extremism within the INC? What is the outcome? The outcome is Sudat split. They will split in 1907 over the issue of, for example, the concept of Swaraj and even on the concept of just spreading Swadeshi beyond Calcutta. At the same point of time, between 1897 and 1914 till 1915, we have one more brand of extremism which is called revolutionary activities, which is basically the real form of extremists who believe in individual action and assassinations, which we'll discuss. But before we do that, one small topic, one simple straightforward concept, which is Muslim League, was left for tomorrow or from tomorrow. And we'll just cover that in 1 second. Timeline I have to give you. Don't worry about that. I have a very long timeline to give you. What I want to do is just discuss the Muslim League and then talk about revolutionary activities, because Muslim League is connected to another important story which we'll be discussing, which is 1909 Morley Minto. So let's talk about the first concept, which is rise of communal consciousness. Now, three things very clearly. Now, everybody, please listen to me. Very important concept. Three things which should automatically come to your mind is, what do I mean by communal consciousness? So communalism, this word, communalism. Firstly, it is different from communism. Communism is related to Marx, that is socialism and communism. This is communalism. Communalism is conflict between any two communities. And therefore the word community gives you communalism. Communities. This is basically conflict between any two communities is called communalism. But in India, communalism has a totally different connotation. And it is the concept of engineered, fake, or British created hatred and conflict between Hindus and Muslims. Now here there are two words which are very, very important. Let's remove the more informal word, which is engineered or British created. What I mean by that is that in India, Hindus and Muslims have a very long shared history. From 1191 till 1707 till 1947, for 800 years, or at least first 600 years, there is no antagonism at the grassroots level which can be attributed to the way communism was there in the British period. What I mean to say is that after 17, let's not even take 1765, after 1905, the type of hatred which was seen between these two communities was all engineered by the British very systematically. Because yes, there had been moments of issue of what we call as temple destruction. We have seen conflict between communities, but it was never that these two communities needed a separate nation for the concept of separate interests. So basically, communal consciousness means the idea that we need separate representation and zones. This is something which the British gave us via the partition of Bengal. So the first thing which I want to tell you, and multiple ideas vis-a-vis, for example, the concept of WhatsApp University, multiple people making videos on YouTube. Everybody is an expert about this nowadays. One thing should be clear in your mind is that there's nothing given or there's nothing automatic in the conflict or antagonism between these two communities. For centuries, people were together in certain communities, in certain areas, and they never had the conflict which was created by the British later. So one thing should be very, very clear in your mind, that communal consciousness in India is a properly British created innovation. And there's nothing given. And see, fights happen. But that does not mean that you have created a separate house for your sibling. You and your brother, your sister fight. Fight at a level where you have destroyed a lot of things in your houses. But that does not mean that your parents have created two different houses, where one in which you live and one in which your sister or brother lives. The British was that parent, unfortunately, that taught both the siblings that it is in your interest to remain different. It is an interest to be in a different house altogether. So please remember this point, and I cannot emphasize enough, you are the future of this country. You are a future civil servant. The fact of the matter is, communal consciousness is a British innovation. And somehow we are not shrugging that off till now. Till now, we have not shrugged it off. So the rise of the Muslim League is not an organic, automatic concept. It is a properly British created innovation. Are we clear about this point? You agree, disagree, does not really matter. But are we clear about this point? Okay. Now, in this context, the forming of the Muslim League is basically based on something called the Shimla Deputation. In September-November period of 1906, there's a person called Aga Khan, which is a position. It's a position which is given to the spiritual post of a Shia Muslim community. Within Shia Muslim community, the spiritual head is called Aga Khan. Aga Khan till today is there. Aga Khan is a title. The person is Sultan Muhammad Shah. Aga Khan, along with, and two different numbers are given, 38 or 58, whatever it may be, 38 to 58 Muslim leaders went to meet Minto, who was the viceroy after Curzon, to meet Minto in Shimla. And their agenda was what Curzon had taught in 1905. They had started to talk about this concept of a separate interest group of Muslims. And the response which Minto gave became the became the stepping stone in which in December of 1906, the Muslim League will be formed with multiple leaders. For example, Muhammad Ali Johar, Shaukat Ali, Hakim Ajmal Ansari. Hakim Ajmal Ansari is a very interesting personality because he has the distinction of being the president of the Congress also, Muslim League also, and All India Khilafat Committee, which I will tell you in 1920. He's also the first chancellor of Jamia Millia Islamia University. And we also have this very problematic personality, which is Jinha. Now, ironically, all of these members were part of the Congress also. So, whilst being part of the INC, they had a separate brainwave that let's go to Shimla and let's operate from Lucknow. And they will have a certain concept wherein the Muslim leaders wanted to also have a separate group itself. Sir Jinnah, why is he problematic? Time will tell. Don't worry about that. Time will tell. The fact of the matter is, when the Muslim League is conceived in 1906, remember, Jinnah and a lot of these leaders who have gone as Shimla deputation, they are not separate from the INC. At this point of time, INC is the connecting link between Muslim League, and Jinnah was a very important active member of the INC. And you will see he will get involved even in the what we call as Home Rule League. He will also get involved till last into the Rowlatt Satyagraha. It is after 1919 that I will tell you things will start to change. But the stepping stone to communal consciousness is going to be 1909 separate electorates, which I'm going to discuss with you when we have already discussed revolutionary activities. Basically, what I've established in front of you is that by the time we have the Calcutta session happening in Calcutta, where the extremists and the moderates are fighting with each other, the Muslim leaders tried to go and meet Minto separately because they were enticed by the concept of this separate representation, wherein what they had done through Curzon's policy of partition of Bengal. Can I stop here with regards to this? And I will pick this issue up again when I reach Morley Minto. I'll discuss who is Morley, who is Minto, what is the concept itself. I want to rather go to a very important section out of which another set of questions come, which is revolutionary activities. This is called revolutionary activities phase 1, which is between 1897 to 1915. And there's the second revolutionary activities, which is basically the concept of HRA, HSRA, Bhagat Singh. That is in the 30s period. Similarities between fascism and communism. Ashish, random question. Do you know what is fascism? Do you know what is communism? And then ask me similarities. Have you done world history with me? Have you done world history with me? Yes. So then why are you asking me this question here? Similarities between fascism and communism. There's no similarity between fascism and communism. Fascism is an ultra-nationalist ideology. Communism is a mode of production within Marx. So what is the context of this question? Randomly. There's a time and place to ask a question. You want to ask communalism and fascism. Again, no connection. Both are different. Very, very different to each other. And let me develop communalism. You will get to know automatically. There's no connection between fascism and the concept of communalism. Again, that is again a myth which is there in India. Okay, now, are we all clear about Muslim League? There's nothing, a path breaking, I've told you. I want to give you a timeline here. This timeline could be a lifeline to answer most of the questions. And it will be extremely important for your preparation because you will find it in multiple places. Shia community in India, yes. Shia community only in India. That is Aga Khan. Aga Khan. Yeah. Can we discuss? Can we discuss the timeline? Are we clear about that? Muslim League formation. Anybody has any issue? You ask me right now. Communal consciousness I've already introduced. I will come back to this concept when I discuss Morley Minto. Can we discuss revolutionary activities phase 1? Are we all on the same page? Can we discuss that? Have to be more active. Now, this timeline you will not find in any book or any one place, and it is a collation of at least 3 to 4 timelines together. So please pay attention to it. As always, you cannot ask me questions right now. You only look at it. Once I've taught you the whole concept, I'll come back to this slide and we'll discuss everything again. Members of the Muslim League does not matter to you, Puneet. Don't waste your time over it. Okay. Now, okay. Now, I'll do one more thing, which is I will embed one more timeline into this. Nine. Thereafter, then comes the explosive period 1907, 1908, and 9. Then 1912, 1913, 14, 15. Now, we already know this is INC formation. This is Swadeshi movement. And this is Surat split. This is what we did last time, yes or no? This is what we did last time, which is basically the three major points. Now, let's add another story to it, which is the more interesting story, which is called revolutionary activities. Now, it starts with the Chapekar brothers assassinating Rand. Then in 1899, we will have the Mitra Mela established by the Savarkar brothers. This is happening in Maharashtra. While in 1902, in Bengal, we will have the Anushilan Samiti will be established. By 1904, Mitra Mela will change its name to Abhinav Bharat. Abhinav Bharat Mitra Mela becomes Abhinav Bharat. And by 1906, Yugantar Group will develop within Anushila. And now the game of revolutionary activities will start by 1907. Here you will have two attempts. One is called Fuller's assassination attempt. Fuller is a judge, British judge. An attempt means that it is not successful. You will also have Fraser's assassination attempt. Rand was a judge. Fuller and Fraser both were. Fuller was a what we call as a judge who became the lieutenant governor of partitioned Bengal, and Fraser was also the lieutenant governor of the other side of Bengal. So Fuller was the lieutenant governor of the East Bengal sector. Fraser was on the other side. I will discuss who it is related to. And see, Mitra Mela is going to be Bombay. This is going to be Bengal. This is again, this is Bombay. This is going to be Abhinav Bharat Bombay. This is again Yugantar is in Bengal. And these two attempts are by the Anushilhan Samiti, or rather what we call as the Yugantar group. By the Yugantar group. Yugantar group. Then 1908 is very significant because two things will happen and it will basically destroy the Anushilhan Samiti. It's called the Kingsford bombing by Anushilhan. And bombing by the Anushilhan. And this will lead to what is called as the Alipur conspiracy case, which will more or less destroy the Anushilhan because everybody is going to get arrested. Thereafter, 1909, we have three things happening. One is called AMT Jackson assassination by Abhinav Bharat, and that will basically lead to the Abhinav Bharat getting banned more or less. But one of you took this name yesterday for some reason, I don't know why, because ChatGPT told you. Curzon Willie will be assassinated by Madan Lal Dhigra in London. Yes, Praful Chakki and Khudiram Bose, Alipur conspiracy case, Kingsford bombing. If you want, I can add that. Praful Chakki and Khudiram Bose. We can add that if you want. 1912 is a very interesting period because it's called Harding bombing, which is basically an attempt on no one else but the Viceroy himself. It will be happening. It's called the Delhi conspiracy case. And the 1913 to 15 period is called the Gadar movement. In between which we will have what is called the Komagatu Maru incident. And by 1915, through the Lahore conspiracy case, it's called the first Lahore conspiracy case, Gadar will be destroyed. And as it is from 1914 onwards till 1919, we have the World War I, which is First World War. And that will dictate a lot of things. World War I or First World War. And 1909 is also important because here one more thing will happen, which is called Morley-Minto reforms, which we will discuss separately, or Indian Council Act 1909. Home Rule League is from this point forward. This point forward, we have Home Rule League, which we'll discuss by the end of the class. Basically, this is what we have to cover. This is what we have to cover. 1916 is also something called the Lucknow Pact. Lucknow Pact. After 9 years, they will come together, which is the Surat split will be undone by the Lucknow Pact in 1916. Now, this is basically our agenda for today. I have to discuss all of this, but I will not go one by one, which is Chapekar brothers. I will go region by region, which is first I'll discuss Bengal, then I'll discuss Maharashtra, which is Bombay. Then we'll talk about revolutionaries outside India, which is Shamji Krishnaji Verma, and you have Bikaji Kama, and you have Virendranath Chattopadhyay. Then we'll discuss Gadar movement and Harding's bombing. In between, we will discuss Rash Bihari Bose and others. Changing of capital to Delhi, it will be 1911. That is 1911. Capital shift. Capital shift from Calcutta to Delhi. It is called Delhi Darbar. We'll discuss that. Delhi Darbar. No revolutionary activities in Madras Presidency. Not necessarily. No specifically documented in this period. So, can we start our story for today? And I hope that you're finding these things useful. You will not find these integrated timelines anywhere generally. So, I'm trying to put them together so that you have one connected story. One connected story. So, very simply, can we start our concept? I am not adding smaller, sir, capital change in 1911. Yes, 1911, which I will tell you, don't worry. Capital change in 1911. We will discuss that. That is why Hardin's bombing will happen in Delhi. Why is religious dominance still prevalent even if modern constitutions? That is how we are as Indians. We know how to get divided very quickly. Can I start revolutionary activities and specifically the story of Bengal first? Is this clear to everybody? Can we start? I will come back to this slide again when we have completed the basics timeline. Madanlal Dhingra, Curzon Willi in London. Okay. Now, let's talk about Bengal. In a way, Bombay is first because 1897 itself, the first major assassination attempt happened. But what I have to discuss with you first, even before Bengal, is what do I mean by these revolutionary activities? And how are they different from political extremists or revolutionary extremists, if you want to call them? See, political extremists basically work within INC or constitutional mechanism. And the idea is very simple, which is that they do not believe in individual action, but politics. In this, we have three most best examples: Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. Though they are tangentially related to these people, they are called political extremists. And the story we've already discussed between 1905 to 1907 to 1916, their Surat split to the concept of what we call as the Lucknow Pact is how we work with that. Revolutionary activities are different. These are individuals and groups who believe that British should be taught a lesson. and it was about instilling fear in the heart of the Englishman. And their concept is very simple. Individual acts of heroism or assassination of bad officers to create shock and awe in British bureaucracy and population. Instilling means to fill. Assassination means to kill. Now, basically, SB, please answer Manja. Please answer Manja. Now, shock and awe means to create fear in a way of creating a spectacle. Now, see, political extremists want to do politics. And their understanding is very simple, which is that they just want to go for constitutional reforms with more revolutionary ideas. But revolutionary activities and revolutionary, what we call as leaders, don't believe in that. Anusilan, Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat, Yuga Antar, they believe that the Britisher should think 2 to 3 times before he comes to India and what he's getting into. Basically, you believe that the Indian population is not going to say anything. You believe that we are very passive Indians. We are not going to say anything. So now let us show you what we think about you. So here it was targeting bad officers and killing them to set an example that, okay, if you are going to be, for example, like Fuller or like Fraser or like Kingsford or like Rand, we will make sure that we make an example of you. And you, when you come to India, you should fear the Indian. You should fear the Indian, which is that we Indians are not going to sit there and take this operation. You want to do violence, we'll also do violence. We'll target all the bad apples in the British government. We will kill every bureaucrat we think is bad for India, and we will create an example so that if next time somebody comes to India and wants a posting in any of these sectors, he should know that an Indian can come and shoot that person. So their understanding is totally different. Their understanding is about creating an example of how we, the Indians, don't like you, we hate you. And we hate you from the bottom of our heart, and we want to give you that bouquet of love via bomb in your hand so that you die, and every person in the bureaucracy gets to know that if he wants to do anything to India, he will be getting shot very soon, or will be blown up, or will be killed for sure if he starts to become too oversmart. So very simply, whilst they are fighting that should Swadeshi go beyond Bengal, now they are saying we don't care Bengal. We just want to send the British a message, and that message is that we don't like you. Get out of here. Get out of here. How did they get this power? They didn't get this power. They took this power away. They started to become secret societies and started to now hit the British officers. And therefore, revolutionary activities have a totally different context. Which is that they have now chosen the path of violence. Violence to create examples. Are we clear about this difference? Is it correct path? Is violence justified here? You are nobody to judge. I am nobody to judge. And yes, it is justified. Somebody had to send a message. So justification and all, you don't know the level at which the British was exploiting India. So you don't understand the anger. So you will ask me this question: is it justified or not? Justified or not justified? Killing a Britisher, a British officer who is known to be very, very bad, is very good national service. And that is something which an Indian needed to do, to say that, see, the British would say to everybody across the world, Indians are not saying anything. So now we are saying something that, okay, we don't like you. We are using your language on you. You will blow up every 1857 soldier. We'll kill you also. So don't give me this judgmental type of constitutional 2023 understanding. Is violence justified or not? Sure, the Gandhi will not agree, but that did not stop them from doing what they wanted to do, or later, for example, HRA or HSRA to do what they wanted to do. So it's not, they are not looking for validation from society. They are just finding a new way of making sure that the British, if they have not received the postcard which says I hate you, then now they're throwing a brick on their head saying that we hate you. So justified or not justified, that is totally your call, your ethics and morality. As I said, in history, everything is justified if you look at the context. Now, now, thereafter, let's talk about now Bengal. Let's talk about Bengal. Can we do that? Difference between a political extremist and a revolutionary extremist is different. Extremism took two forms in India: political extremism, revolutionary activities. We're discussing the second part of the story. If you realize something, yesterday I kept this timeline hidden. And I only showed you the political extremism point. Now I'm bringing both the stories together and now discussing what was happening in the background whilst partition of Bengal was happening. Now in Bengal, the first such body which started to instill a new sense of revolutionary ideas into the youth was in Bengal, a body which came up in 1902, which is called the Anushilhan Samiti. If you remember, Samitis were there which was spreading the message. And Anushilhan Samiti will be developed. I'll give you the founders, don't worry. I'll give you enough names, don't worry about that. Anushilhan Samiti will be created as a body which was going to basically give the youth of Bengal a new training in a new activity, a new beginning. Basically, they said a sense of sacrifice needs to come in, a sense of understanding needs to come in. And Anushilhan Samiti wanted to do physical development, mental development, psychological development of the people. But the problem with Anushilhan is that it is not that revolutionary and is not doing anything generally. And that is why by 1906, within the Anushilhan, there will be a group which will rise, which will be called the Yugantar group. It will be a group within the Anushilhan itself. They used to publish a newspaper called Yugantar. And Yugantar group was the one which was extremely, very, very active. And now they will start to plan revolutionary activities and revolutionary assassinations of these officers. Now, just to add to the story, Anushilhan Samiti will be established by a person called Pramotha Mittar and Jatindranath Banerjee and Burendra Kumar Ghosh. Basically, two Ghosh brothers, they're called the Ghosh brothers. Ghosh brothers were involved. Ghosh brothers, one is Aurobindo Ghosh and the other one is Birendra Kumar Ghosh. Birendra Kumar Ghosh. These two did not like how Anushilhan was working under, for example, Pramod Mittar, and they believed that just giving physical and moral training was not enough. We need to develop a bigger body than what we see as Anushilhan under in Midnapur and in Calcutta, and they will develop a smaller body within. These are the two brothers, Birendra Kumar and Aurobindo Ghosh. It will be in 1906 that Anushilhan will give birth to a weekly called Yugantar, and the Yugantar group will be created under Birendra Kumar Ghosh and Bhupendra Datta. And from 1906 onwards, they will start to plan something very revolutionary. And now you see the way they used to speak in Yugantar is so revolutionary and so change driven and something different than what we used to see, please, prayer, petition. You see, what they used to see, the remedy lies with the people. The 30 crore people inhabiting India must raise their 60 crore hands to stop this curse of oppression. Force must be stopped by force. This was the basic idea of Yuganthar, that if every Indian woke up and slapped every Britisher, as it is, they will become deaf and die of slapping. Because the number of Britishers were not even 10% of the Indian population. And they believe that we need to tell to the British that India is not a big, what we call as summer vacation or honeymoon. No. India, if you're coming, come with the idea that you can get shot and people don't like you. So just to add to this, we have Anusilan and then Yugantar. Anusilan Samiti is Pramod Mittar. 1 second. Pramod Mittar. And Yugantar will become very, very important under Birendra Kumar Ghosh. Bhupendra, yes, you have to remember these names. Bhupendranath Datta and Aurobindo Ghosh. So we have now established that there's a body called the Anusilan Samiti, and we have established that there's a newspaper called Yugantar and a group which Anusilan had within it, which is called Yugantar. So Anusilan is the bigger body. Yugantar group exists within the Anusilan itself. So Ghosh brothers and Bhupendra Nath Datta, what they were doing was that they were operating within the Anusilan, but now becoming more and more revolutionary. Are we clear about this? What is the difference between Anusilan and the concept of Yugantar? Because Yugantar exists within the Anusilan. Anusilan is the bigger body. Yes, the same Aurobindo Ghosh, poet and nationalist. Yes. Okay. Now these two brothers, Aurobindo and Birendra Kumar Ghosh, they had ideas. And the idea was that let's show that what does partition of Bengal actually mean. So the Yugantar, the first activity they planned was in 1907. They will plan two basic assassinations. One is a person called Fuller, and the other is Fraser. Fuller was the lieutenant governor of Eastern Bengal, and Fraser was the lieutenant governor of Western Bengal. And basically, they thought that if East and West can be divided, let's do one thing. Let's kill both the lieutenant governors and tell the British how we love the concept of partition of Bengal. But the problem was Fuller's assassination attempt failed. And with Fraser, what they wanted to do, they wanted to derail his train, which again failed. So they were not able to kill either of Fuller or Fraser. So now they choose a person called Kingsford. So you can see Fuller and Fraser both were targeted in 1907. I will come to this story later. Now the person is going to be a person called Kingsford. He is the white judge of Muzaffarpur. Fuller is a person. So now 1907 has not worked. So now they are going to target in 1908 Kingsford, who's a judge, very sadistic judge, who's to always give judgments in the favor of a Britisher. Now, in Kingsford, two people are involved, two very important revolutionaries are involved. Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose. They are given the task of throwing a bomb on the carriage. Carriage means Muzaffarpur, Bihar. Yes, he's the sadistic judge of the Muzaffarpur sector, and he was in Alipur at this point of time. And there's a road which is called the Maniktola Road, and on that road it was decided that when on the carriage which in which Kingsford is going to travel with his horse here, what was decided was that the carriage of Kingsford is going to be targeted. And what happens is that Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose throw a bomb on this body. They throw a bomb on this carriage, but unfortunately their calculation was off, and they thought that it was Kingsford, but rather Kingsford will not be killed, but two British ladies will be killed. So Kingsford will survive. However, two British ladies will get killed, who were basically related to Kingsford. Now, once the British get to know that something like this was getting planned, in 1908, they will now register a case under what is called as Alipur conspiracy case. The Alipur conspiracy case. And this is the original FIR which was given by the British at this point of time. This is the road. This is the road on which, and this is the whole Anusilan group Yuganta. This is the 26 to 27 people who were tried under the Alipur conspiracy case. This is basically a very beautiful picture of each of these martyrs who are related to the Yugantar. Each one of them was related to this Yugantar group, and they planned the Alipur conspiracy case. And the concept, as I told you, on this road itself, the bomb was thrown on Kingsford carriage. And as you can see, this is the descriptive role of Aurobindo Ghosh, telling us what was his age when he was caught, which is 37 years of age, 5 foot 6 inches. And it says Alipur district conviction. Initially, he was acquitted, but later he will again get convicted. Initially, they thought that he is someone else, but once the whole group is caught, he will again get caught under that concept itself. So, the Alipur conspiracy case, what will happen is that the British will come on a very heavy hand on the Anushilhan Samiti, and every member is going to get arrested, and more or less, this will end the story of Yugantar and Anushilhan. But we have the honor of witnessing and studying about these martyrs, the unsung heroes of the Indian national movement, who did give it to the British in a very, very hard and hitting way. And all of them will be either convicted and sent to Andaman Nicobar Islands or will be hanged. And Birendra Kumar Ghosh and Aurobindo Ghosh will be both martyred as the key conspirators in the Alipur conspiracy case. So they have two attempts which failed. Kingsford, somebody gets killed, not Kingsford, and Anusilan ends. Are we clear about Anusilan's story? The years which are important is 1902, 1906, 1907, 1908. Are we clear about this? Yes or no? Alipur conspiracy case, please do understand that Alipur conspiracy case, Saloni, eventually, I'm not saying at this moment, eventually, they will move around but they eventually will get caught for sure. Kingsford is not killed. Kingsford survives. Now, 1902, 1906, 1907, 1908, Anushilon, Yugantar, Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford. Why have I told you this? There are three things which can come in the examination. First, in the exam in 2022, exactly came that Birendra Kumar Ghosh's name was in the examination straight. And they asked that was he related to Gadar movement, which he isn't basically, but his name was there. Second, they can ask you to put this in chronological order, which is Fraser, Fuller, Kingsford, or the larger story of revolutionary activities. I have tried to streamline this for you, and I have already given you the master timeline. So in the master timeline, what I have covered right now is 3 to 4 dates. I have covered 1902, I have covered 1906, I have covered 1908, and 1908 and 1907, Fraser and Fuller. Are we clear about this? Because then I will go to the genesis of revolutionary activities in India, which is Bombay and a group which was inspired by Bal Gangadhar Tilak himself. Are we clear about this? This is how we are going to operate. I'm going back and forth in the story. Then I'll bring all the stories together, and I've already given you the timeline of that. Are we clear about Bengal? Anybody has any issue? Do you have to learn the names? Yes, you have to learn the names. What you have to do with the other things is basically understand other aspects related to what is the attempts, who are there, what is Alipur conspiracy case. Yes, Fuller is first, then Fraser. Come on. Yes, no, have to be more clear. Yes. Now the tradition of revolutionary activities in Bombay or Bombay presidency will Saloni, you're mixing up two Aurobindo Ghoshes. You're mixing up the two different people. You're thinking of Aurobindo Ashram, Aurobindo Ghosh. There's a different Aurobindo Ghosh. There are two Aurobindo Ghoshes. No, they are different. You are giving me the story, sure, but there are two different people. I know what you've written is true for Aurobindo Ghosh, but there are two Aurobindo Ghoshes. So you're mixing it up. Okay. Why they didn't re-attempt to kill Kingsford? Because they will get caught and tried in that regard. Now, Bombay. Bombay, there will be even before the concept of partition of Bengal, the first successful assassination of anybody in Indian subcontinent were by two disciples of Bal Gangadhar Tilak himself, called the Chapekar brothers, and they will assassinate a person called Rand. He was the plague commissioner, and he was a very bad one at it. Not very good towards Indians. And basically, this will send throughout the whole of India a major shock wave that the Indian youth was now targeting very important government officers. Rand, in a way, was considered to be, he used to basically boost about how he did not care about Indians generally. And being the plague commissioner, plague is a COVID-19, like what we call as it's a disease which spreads through mice and was very common at this point of time across the world. And plague commissioner in that sense had to be very good in making sure that the basic things were in place. And therefore, Chapekar brothers made sure that Rand was assassinated to create an example. And based on this success, in 1899, we will get by V.D. Savarkar and his brother, or what are called the Savarkar brothers, what is called as the Mitra Mela, which will be by 1902 renamed as Abhinav Bharat. And that connection of Abhinav Bharat was coming from no one else but the Mazzini and Garibaldi concept of Young Italy movement, through which comes Abhinav Bharat, Young India movement. So you have Young India, which is De Rosio also. This is also getting inspired by that understanding that we need a nation and we need an understanding. Now, when it comes to their assassinations, this was not related to Mitra Mela or Anusilan. Their major assassination was a person called A.M.T. Jackson. A.M.T. Jackson. And here again, unlike Bengal, they were very, very clear in who they wanted to target. And A.M.T. Jackson will be killed. But again, the same story will be repeated, which is that as soon as A.M.T. Jackson will be killed, the government will go after the Abhinav Bharat very heavy-handedly, and the Savarkar brothers will also get arrested in this. And in a way, with the government going after both, which is the Anusilan and the Yugantar and Mitra Mela and Abhinav Bharat, both were very heavy-handedly destroyed as organizations, with the British realizing that something was happening. So the story is the same, the timelines are different, which is that here it was the year of what we call as 1907, 1902, 1906, and 1908. A.M.T. Jackson is going to happen in 1909. So it's happening full and it's in the same period. So this is 1909. 1909, one thing more will happen, which we will discuss, separate issue altogether. But we have 1899, 1904, not 1902. 1902 is Anusilan. We will basically have this dynamism within Bengal and Bombay. So you can see here, the stories are converging in this story. You have 1897 Chapekar brothers, thereafter Mitra Mela and Abhinav Bharat 1904, Anusilan, and by 1906 all bodies have been created. 1907 is the year of Yugantar. 1908 is also the year of Yugantar. 1909 is the year of the Abhinav Bharat. By 1909, one thing was very clear. Before Parliamentary reform was going to come properly, Indian-based revolutionary activities was going to die out. Because at the end of the day, the problem was that the British came very heavy-handedly on them. If this is clear, I will read this story out from the PPT. Then I want to discuss a very important personality, Ras Bihari Bose, and the Delhi conspiracy case, or what is called as the Harding bombing. Can we discuss that? Two stories, Bengal and Bombay. Bombay starts first, Bengal starts later. Convergence by 1909. Okay, now here, we already discussed that Anusilan rose in 1902 first in Midnapur, then in Calcutta, and physical and moral training was something which was important for them. Within it, the two brothers will rise and in turn lead to the Anusilan to give birth to the Yugantar group, which was much more revolutionary than Anusilan itself, and it will start to then go for this form of activity in which they will try to target British officers. So whilst Ras Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal, remember their names because I will be discussing them in the context of 1912. Sachin Sanyal and Ras Bihari Bose, not Ghosh, Bose, these two personalities will start to become more and more revolutionary. And Ras Bihari Bose, that way, is a very important personality. It will be linked to Delhi bombing, will be linked to Gadar, will be even linked to, he's the same person who's linked to the INA. So he will start here and then start to basically become more and more dangerous for the British over a period of time. Now, from Punjab, Delhi, he will start to develop this concept itself, which is military and political training of the youth. 1907, an abortive attempt on the very unpopular Sir Fuller or Fuller, who was the Lieutenant Governor of the new Eastern Bengal sector. He will later resign, but his resignation will be seen as a form of weakness, so he needed to be killed. And they will also try to derail the train of Andrew Fraser, who was traveling in the West Bengal sector. Thereafter, their most successful attempt is going to be Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose throwing a bomb on the suspected carriage carrying Kingsford. Kingsford were not in the carriage. Two ladies will get killed. Prafulla Chakki will, at that point of time, martyr himself, and Khudiram Bose will be tried and hanged. And this will lead to the Anushilin Samiti getting caught, both brothers getting caught, known as the Alipur conspiracy case or the Maniktola bomb conspiracy or the Muraripur, what we call as conspiracy, which is this road which you see is called the Maniktola. So this was called the Maniktola bombing conspiracy. Thereafter, in Bengal itself in 1908, a smaller group of the Dhaka, which is the Eastern Bengal Anusilan, they will try to do small dacoities to develop or to get funds in that regard. We'll talk about Rajbihari Bose and Sachin Salyan later, but we have to go to Bombay first. In Maharashtra, the first such proper revolutionary activity was under what we have already discussed, which is called the Ramosi Peasant Force under Basudev Balwant Phadke. However, we don't add him to the larger story because it's more a peasant movement than a revolutionary activity, and it is much before than nationalism as we see developed. So it will be rather Bal Gangadhar Tilak who will start to promote the concept of violence and the concept of extremism through the Ganpati's festival, through the Shivaji festival, and his two newspapers, the Kesari and the Maratha. Out of his ideas will come two very important brothers, the Chapekar brothers, Damodar and Balkrishna. They will murder Rand and one lieutenant of his, which is called Ernst, in 1897, creating an example. Thereafter, the Savarkar brothers, who had created the Mitra Mela, will then after become Abhinav Bharat by 1904. They will start to manufacture bombs in Pune and Nasik. And in 1909, they will go after the collector, the DC of Nasik itself, which is AMT Jackson. And he will be killed by Anant Lakshman Kanhare. And once that will be done, again, 38 people will be arrested in this case. So both Savarkar brothers will get arrested, and the Abhinav Bharat will cease to exist as a body. This is basically the story of both front and back. Now I want to discuss with regards to Delhi. For that, I have to introduce you to the concept of Delhi Darbar or the Calcutta Darbar. Is the first part of the story clear? Because then I go from 1909 and forward. You can see there are multiple names, there are multiple events which are happening. You just need to know their timeline, which I've already given you in the beginning. Are we all on the same page? Are we clear about this? Yes? Okay. They killed Rand. They killed Rand. Now, Maharashtra Ritika, it's straightforward. Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat, AMT Jackson killed, Abhinav Bharat gone. There is Anusilan, Yugantar, Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford. After Kingsford, Alipur conspiracy case, gone. Are we clear about this? You remember it like this and it will be easy for you. Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford, Jackson. You can simply remember it like this. 1 second. Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford, Jackson. FF, Hoofer, Kingja. If you can remember it like this. Fraser is a person, Fuller is a person, Kingsford is a person, Jackson is a person. So Fraser means is not a right question. Again, as I told you, 1902, 1906, 1907, 1908 is important for Anushilhan, Yugantar, Fuller Fraser, Kingsford. 1899, 1904, 1909 is the year for Maharashtra. Anushilhan, Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat, Jackson assassination. Are we clear about this? Okay, now the British were getting frustrated, were literally getting frustrated by how things were developing in Calcutta. So, Calcutta by 1800 to 1900 period, it had become an epicenter of multiple problems for the British generally. And after the partition of Bengal, by 1907, 1908, Calcutta had become a literal sore eye to the British. But Calcutta was the capital of British India, and they had, in a way, performed two very, very big darbars, 1877 and 1903, which are called the Calcutta Darbar. Now, basically, the concept of the darbar is very simple. The concept of darbar is that when Mughal emperor used to sit in his court, all Indian rulers used to come and say homage to him, or give homage to him, that he used to basically accept the peshkash or the nazrana or the gifts of everyone. Now, basically, in 1877 and 1903, in 1877, Queen Victoria was proclaimed as the Empress of India, and she was now like the Mughal emperor, the Empress of India, and the Empress of the Queen of England, and the Empress of India. Basically, all areas which had not been fully added to the to the British India, which is the princely states as they're called. For example, the Nizam, for example, the Rajputana states, for example, certain parts of Tanjore, certain parts of the Pune sector, certain parts of the Carnatic sector, much of the Rajasthan sector. There were multiple Rajas who had evaded annexation after the 1857 revolt. The British said that there's no point taking them inside the British Indian sector. Let them be, but let them accept in the British as the most important power, which is called paramountcy, which is very soon I'm going to introduce it to you, which is called the concept of paramountcy. That the British is the paramount power in India, and let them accept that. Much like how the Mughals used to make the Rajputs accept that in the medieval period. This is the concept of suzerainty. There's something called sovereignty. Sovereignty is absolute power. Suzerainty is power which is based on overlordship concept, which is that you accept as a power somebody as your overlord. So I hope that you understand what is sovereignty and suzerainty little bit, because I have to tell you that. But sovereignty is absolute power, which is India as a sovereign nation. We don't accept anybody as our overlord. But there can be a moment in which we are under a suzerain. Suzerain means that we accept somebody's overlordship. For example, if you are if you're preparing for UPSC in Delhi, so you are a sovereign. You can do whatever you want to do within your room, outside your room, wherever you want to go. You're not answerable to anyone. So you have both internal and external freedom. But if you are, for example, preparing with your parents, you are a basic, what we call as feudatory, or you accept the suzerainty of your parents, which is that as much as you have a little bit of autonomy in your room, which you also don't have, once you step out of your room, you accept your parents as your overlord. They basically dictate your foreign policy, your outward behavior, and what you do as an individual. So suzerainty and sovereignty works like this. I cannot give you a better example for this. Suzerainty is accepting somebody as your overlord. He will basically take care of your foreign policy or external freedom. Internally, you may be free, but a sovereign is internally and externally free both ways. So I hope you understand suzerainty example. So basically, the concept was that these princely states were made to accept suzerainty, which is that British is the ultimate power. Is this making sense to you? I have to introduce this concept to you properly, which is paramountcy, but I'm giving you a basic taste of it. Everybody has to say yes or no, which is the idea that the British is the ultimate power. Ultimate power which controls everything. These princely states were autonomous within their own sphere. Outside, the British used to control what they will do in that regard. 1877 and 1903 were these spectacles like the Republic Day. And now in 1911, two decisions will be taken. One, that the capital of India, with the promulgation of George V as the King of England, the capital of India will shift from Calcutta to Delhi in the year of 1912, and it will annul the partition of Bengal. And basically what it will do is, rather than having West Bengal and East Bengal, it created one Bengal, and it took out Bihar and Orissa from it. But what is more important is the spectacle. Now these are the images of what we call as the Delhi Darbar of 1911. 1911, George V came to India, and now every princely state king was asked to come to Delhi and in a way showed their respects to the British. Now, by looking at the architecture, by looking at the spectacle which has been created, look at the way they are using a Mughal dome. They are using a Mughal dome. So they want to create this spectacle. Yes, I am the emperor of India, but I am no less than, for example, Akbar or Aurangzeb or Jahangir or Shah Jahan. And therefore, there used to be a proper procession which used to happen from Red Fort. The importance of Red Fort being, it is here that 1857 Bahadur Zafar was caught, and therefore the new emperors of India were no one else but the British Crown. And they will have proper processions like the Republic Day. So the concept of the Republic Day which you see is basically like the Delhi Darbar. In this, every regiment of India used to come, every officer used to come. There used to be a proper dinner, there used to be a proper lunch, and basically it was a big darbar like the Mughal emperors used to do. And in this, the king and the queen. This is George V. Don't go by his picture. He is much more dangerous to India than what he looks like in this picture. But the point is, George V will be basically proclaimed as the Emperor of India. And the Emperor and the Empress came to India so as to show to the Indians that, yes, we are the Indians. We are the new emperors of the Indians, and we are here to get homage from everybody who is under us. So this was a very big spectacle which was created by George V. We have one in 1877, one in 1903. This is the third and the last darbar which was basically going to happen properly in India ever. And this was to do two things: annul partition of Bengal, but shift the capital to the new city called Delhi. These are pictures, real pictures taken from the Delhi Darbar as of 1911. Now, are we clear about what is the concept of Darbar? A lot of you ask me this question: what is the Darbar? Are we clear about that? Yes? Now, Rash Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal said that, no, sir, Puja, as I said, Darbar, Delhi Darbar, Calcutta Darbar are nothing but big Republic Day type celebrations in which the Mughal, the British crown or the British emperor or British king and queen used to come and basically check out how was India, and they used to tell everybody that, see, we are the emperor and the empress. So as to give a face to colonialism, this was the face of colonialism. Previously, East India Company did not do this type of vulgar activity because East India Company just wanted money. That is it. Now they are doing all this type of what we call as shosha, that, see, we are here, we are the British Emperor. This is the face of colonialism. Look at us. this is the way, this is the face which is exploiting you. So basically it will create even more anger, and a lot of money was wasted in creating these big spectacles. It was a way of showing to the British that yes, we are here, we are here to rule. So very simply, it is a spectacle which still today happens in England, in which there are certain moments in which the Queen and the King come out, this and that. They are already stuck in there, that concept itself. But this is a problem for us because now this creates. There are three darbars which happened, proper three darbars. They will plan one more later, but it will not work out. 1877, 1903, 1911. 1911 is the most important darbar because it shifts the capital from Calcutta to Delhi. Are we clear? Are we clear? This is not Mughal emperor type clothes. These people are wearing the Mughal emperor Mughal type clothing. They are wearing proper English crown clothes. Can I now talk about Harding bombing and the concept of Sachin Sanyal and what Rash Bihari Bose wanted to do? Okay. Now Delhi had been being constructed for the past 10 to 15 years under two architects. One is called Lutins and the other one is called Baker. So the whole of New Delhi, which you see today, is basically created by these two people. And the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which was basically Viceroy's palace, the North Block, the South Block, the Rajpath, all of that was created at this point of time, though the Rajpath will be only opened by 1930s. The fact is, Delhi was made as a new capital because they wanted to do two things. First, they wanted to come out of the mess of Calcutta, which is the mess of Calcutta, because Calcutta was too nationalistic at this point of time. And by sitting in Delhi, they wanted to also change their character. Try to understand this point. No political power in India had ever operated from Calcutta. It was either Agra or it was either Delhi. So be it the Delhi Sultanate, be it the Mughals, or it was Patliputra previously. So either Patna or Kannauj or Agra or Delhi, these have been with the power centers of India. What the British saw by 1911 was that nationalism was becoming too much. So they're trying to do this drama that no, we are also like the Mughals only. See, we are also using Mughal architecture. When I teach you art and culture, I will tell you about something called Indo-Saracenic architecture. Every architecture before 1911 used to have this Christian feel, which is called Gothic architecture. But now their architecture will change. It will become more Mughalish. So if you will see ever, for example, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, or for example, the whole North Block, South Block, it has a very strong Mughal influence. So they're again trying to mask their colonialism, which is that no, we are nothing but Mughals. So they're trying to play with nationalism here. But Raj Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal did not like the fact that how India was being ruled and how they were doing a drama. Is the background clear? Darbar concept clear? And the reason to shift to Delhi clear? And the concept clear? I'm multiple times asking you, because if I talk about Harding bombing, you should be clear why Delhi and what is the concept behind it. Why Queen ruled over India, not King? If the Queen is ruling in England, she will become the Empress. Victoria was there. Victoria will be succeeded by George V. So King is ruling. Are we clear? Reason is two things. Epicenter, the Calcutta was becoming a mess for the British. Revolutionary activities are happening. People are getting shot. Bombs are being thrown. Obviously, they wanted to come out of Bengal. Second is, by coming to Delhi, they are trying to project that how Shahjahanabad, Aurangzeb, everybody used to sit, Bazu Zafar used to sit in Delhi. We are also like them. We will sit in Delhi. Delhi was the historical seat of power. They're sitting there as that same concept itself. Reason is not confusing. It's straightforward. Calcutta was becoming too nationalistic. And second was, they want to mask their aspect of rule by saying that how Delhi was ruled by the Mughals, or Mughals used to rule from Delhi. We are ruling from Delhi. Are we clear? There's no strategic position. Delhi is not strategically placed for the British. They had nothing to do with strategy. It's more about optics. Can I move forward? Why they shifted? Again, I'm saying, listen to me. Calcutta was the problem, too much nationalism. Second thing, which is Delhi is a projection of a certain type of optics, which is based on the idea that everybody ruled from Delhi, we are also ruling from Delhi. So it's a symbolic gesture, and it's a give up move from Calcutta. They were now frustrated by Bengal because too much nationalism there. Yes. Bhimre. Okay. Bhimare. Okay. Now, Raj Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal said that obviously we can't hit the emperor because that will become too much. And that would be very difficult to do, which is to throw a bomb or kill the emperor or the king in that regard. So they said that let's do one thing. Why are we killing this Rand, this Jackson, this Kingford? Let's do one thing. Let's target the Viceroy straight. Let's target the Viceroy. Viceroy newly appointed Harding. Harding, by this point of time, had created a very important, very beautiful move, which was that in 1912 he was going to walk down the Chandni Chowk on an elephant from the Red Fort. He would come out in an elephant, and then he would walk down the Chandni Chowk and say to everybody, see, I am here to rule. I represent the crown in India, and the British are finally back to where power has already been, which is Delhi. Why Delhi is the capital of the Mughals? Sheikh, ancient medieval art and culture. When I will discuss after 12th of December, we will discuss it there. Forget about it. Yes, Delhi was the power, Shahjahanabad, and Shah Jahan shifted it back to Delhi. Now, Harding created this very beautiful mood. The mood set kar diya that once I will, with my wife, I will sit on that elephant and walk down Chandni Chowk. Very beautiful whole stretch of Chandni Chowk. He wanted to create an spectacle. Now, Raj Bihari Bose was in Dehradun and Sachin Sanyal was in Delhi. They will plan that let's do one thing. As soon as he comes on the Chandni Chowk stretch, let's throw a bomb on him. Sachin Sanyal said nothing better. So now Raj Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal will plan this whole concept, and three men will be given this task. I will give you their names to go and throw a bomb on Harding. Though Raj Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal were both there in Chandni Chowk, they were not the ones who will throw it. Now the bomb is thrown successfully. The bomb is thrown successfully on this bastard called Harding. However, what happens is that the bomb explodes over the Mahant and not over Harding or his wife. So what happens is that the Mahant of the elephant, he will die, and Harding and his wife will get very brutally injured but not will be killed. But the Harding bombing, which is called the Delhi conspiracy case, was a very daring act by the revolutionaries to hit no one else but the Viceroy in Delhi in Chandni Chowk. Now, what will happen is as soon as Raj Bihari Bose will realize that this has been a failed attempt, he will very quickly go back to, in disguise, very quickly go back to Dehradun. And ironically, guess what? Guess what Raj Bihari Bose was going to do in Dehradun? Guess. Wild guess. What was he going to do in Dehradun? Guess. He does not go into hiding. He does not go into hiding. Rather, what he does is he organizes in his house a small gathering where he says galat hua. Very bad thing happened, which is Harding was bombed. Unacceptable. He will basically bring all the loyalists of Dehradun together and say, Rand was okay, Kingsford was okay. Harding, I have no idea who this brutal monster is who planned something like this. Basically, he started to manipulate the people to show to the people he was not involved in this. So Raspberry Bose that way was a very smart personality, because the first thing he does is reaches back, calls everybody and says, very, very unfortunate. They should burn in hell who threw the bomb on Harding. Harding did not deserve it. But Raspberry Bose knew that this drama was not going to work for too long. And that is why, based on this, he will, in the next 1 year, board a ship from Calcutta and go to Japan. Because he knew that some way or the other, the British will find this connection. And that is why Sachin Sanyal and both Raspberry Bose never get caught with regards to the Hardin bombing and the Delhi conspiracy case. However, the other three men will be caught and they will be prosecuted for this. The Harding bombing was such a big shock to the British that they will very simply establish the CID, which is basically today CBI. The Central Intelligence Department will be established for the first time in order to curb these revolutionary activities in India in 1912. So very simply, he was saved. Yes, he went to Japan, but he will not sit in Japan. You will see he will do much more things in Japan in that regard. He is going to come back into the story very soon. Now, Raspberry Bose, Sachin Sanyal staged a spectacular bomb attack on Harding on the official day of opening of Delhi as the capital in Chandni Chowk. Harding was injured but not killed. Investigation followed, and Baswant Kumar Biswas, Amir Chand, and Awadh Bihari were the ones who were convicted and executed for the or martyred for the roles in the conspiracy. Raspberry Bose and other unknown personalities, Sachin Sanyal, never got caught. They left in disguise, and basically he will flee to Japan, but he will not stop there. Now, with the Harding bombing, the India-based revolutionary activities was now over, because now the British had become very, very active. And that is why when in Punjab, Lala Lajpat Rai, who will start to talk about revolutionary activities in the Punjabi, or Bhagat Singh's uncle, which is Ajit Singh, who will start to now have an extremist organization which is called the Anjuman-e-Moshiban-e-Watan. It will start to have a journal, and it will start to operate from Lahore with the journal called Bharat Mata. But in Punjab, what will happen is that the British had now become very alert. They will very, very, very quickly or what we call as crush these bodies and crush these newspapers. And a lot of people after that will be either arrested or deported, which is, for example, Ajit Singh himself, Lal Chand, Bhai Parmanand, Lala Hardyal. Remember this person. Lala Hardyal is going to do something which will be important after 1912. He will flee from Punjab, but he will go to Canada and then to America and start something there, which is important. Now, before I go to the other part of the story, which is revolutionaries abroad, we will have to discuss four. Then I give you a break, and then we come back and discuss Ghadar movement and separate electorates. What I have to discuss with you is very simply, I'm now trying to consolidate. What I've done with you is only three things. I've only done with you only three things. It seemed to be very big, but they are very straightforward. I have completed the story till 1912. Starts with the Bombay Bengal story, Chapekar brothers, Anisulan Samiti, the Yugantar, Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat, Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford, and Harding is the last one. In the sense, it starts with Fuller Fraser, goes to Kingsford, then to AMT Jackson, and it will end with Harding bombing. The names which you have to remember here, are very standard and straightforward. I am discussing it with you very simply. You have to remember Anushilan Samiti, the Mitra Mela, this is Yugantar, this is Abhinav Bharat. At the same point of time, Anushilan, you have two brothers, Birendra Kumar Ghosh, Aurobindo Ghosh, Bhupendra Nath Datta. बीरेंद्र कुमार घोष, Aurobindo Ghosh, and Bhupendra Nath Datta. Abhinav Bharat, you have the Savarkar brothers. And here you have to also remember Chapekar brothers. You have to discuss here Prafulla Chakki and Khudiram Bose. And we have to discuss, remember Fuller, Fraser, Kingsford, Jackson, Harding. And in Harding bombing, we have Rash Bihari Bose and Sachin Sanyal. So if we are clear about all of this, let's do one thing. We can stop here itself and we come back and discuss revolutionaries overseas. Can we do that? Yes? Are we clear about whatever is written on this slide? I will leave you on the timeline slide and we will come back at 6:50, 55, and we'll take the story forward. Acceptable? Yes? Okay, sir. Great, sir. So this is what we've covered till this point. We'll come back to this. We have to take the story from here on forward. See you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. Curzon Willi situation you did not explain, sir. I have to explain that to you. That is revolutionary activities abroad. Not Deepshika, by Dal Gangadhar Tilak. Okay. Now, whilst in India, all of this was happening, there was also something parallelly happening across the world with Indian diasporic population in different parts of the world as of right now, and the British Empire encompassing from the Canadian sector to even parts of North America, to parts of which is New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia, Malaya, India, parts of Africa, parts of China, Hong Kong, everywhere. The British Empire was an empire on which the sun never set. And therefore, the fact is that revolutionary activities abroad is people or personalities who are becoming more and more active abroad, creating an opposition for the British outside India. Because in India, there's too much censorship. In India, there's too much censorship. They are trying to manipulate a lot of things. So now what they're doing is basically trying to go abroad, because in these zones maybe they have much more freedom to do what they will not be able to do, for example, in India, for example. So therefore there were three very important personalities in this, rather four. And the first is a person called Shyamji Krishna Verma. He was sitting in London. He was sitting in London, and he very ironically named his body as the India House. So basically, he used to argue that what will this India House do of the Secretary of State? I am the real India House. This is really the India House. We represent India in that sense. And what Shyamji Krishna Verma used to do was that he used to give scholarships to revolutionaries in India to come to London and now hit the British in their own home. So they were like, these Britishers think that they are safe in London, let's kill them here also. And in that context, Shyamji Krishna Verma gave one scholarship to a person called Madan Lal Dhingra. This innocent face which you see here is of Madan Lal Dhingra, going to study and going to fulfill his world emotion and his father's dream of pursuing some schooling and college in London. He was not a student, he was a revolutionary. He will be given the task to kill somebody from the Secretary of State India House. And he will kill a person called Curzon Willi and assassinate a member of the Secretary of State India House, and he will basically send chills across the British Empire that the Indians had reached London also. So Shyamji Krishna Verma, operating from London, developing the India Home Rule, and had a what we call as a journal called Sociologist. He will be the one who will also get help from Lala Hardayal and V.D. Savarkar, and he will be the one who will give the scholarship to Madan Lal Dhingra to come to London and assassinate a British bureaucrat in the India House itself. And this is very significant that way, because this will send chills across the whole empire, because now the Britishers were not safe in London itself. But it does not stop here, because two more personalities will emerge, which is Madam Bikaji Kama, who will operate from Paris and Geneva, and she will establish a newspaper called a weekly called Bande Matram, and it will criticize the British activity in Switzerland. And you have Virendranath Chattopadhyay, who will basically base himself in Berlin and again talk about the British in a very derogatory sense. So very simply, you can see that Paris, Berlin, and London, three very important capital cities of Germany, France, and England, Indian diasporic revolutionaries were now spreading nationalism and revolutionary activities across the world itself. But they are just the beginning, because the most important body which ever remained or was there as a revolutionary body in the world and was becoming a big problem for the British very quickly is going to be called the Ghadar movement and the Ghadar party. Ghadar party, Ghadar movement. Can I discuss Ghadar movement? You have to just remember Virendranath Chattopadhyay, Berlin, back Madam Bikaji Kama, Paris, and Shyamji Krishnaji Verma or Krishna Verma in London. Madan Lal Dhingra kills somebody called Curzon Willie. Are we clear about this? Scholarship was given by Shyamji Krishna Verma. Great. Perfect. Now, Lala Hardayal and one person called Sohan Singh Bhakna. These are two important revolutionaries which were operating in Punjab. But in Punjab, the British very quickly killed nationalism. So therefore, they traveled to a very important sector which was emerging at this point of time. What is the purpose of India House? Basically to spread nationalism and do revolutionary activities in London. Now, Canada was emerging as a very important zone of people traveling to the newer parts of the whole empire itself. And Canada was a British controlled area, was a British part of the British Empire. And in that sense, it's a very important place where a lot of people from Punjab are going. And generally, on the western coast of America and in Canada, a lot of Punjabis are going there. There are two reasons for that. Madan Lal Dhingra will be caught and then martyred. The two reasons why people were going there was because, see, just before the World War and during the World War, a lot of Punjab-based soldiers were traveling across the world with the Royal British Army. So they were being deployed in different parts of the world, from Southeast Asia to West Asia to Africa and in different parts of India itself, along with the whole sector, which is Southeast Asia, England, and even parts of Europe, in Africa, multiple deployments. And when these officers or these soldiers used to basically get dismissed or used to leave service, they did not want to go back to India in Punjab, and they started to settle in Canada and started to settle in multiple parts of the western coast, and most important in San Francisco. So the Ghadar movement was basically a movement which was started by Lala Hardayal and Sohan Singh Bhakna and 2-3 other important revolutionaries, but their base was two people: the British of the what we call as Punjabi officers or Punjabi soldiers who had been removed from the army or who had left the army, and they don't want to go back to India, so they settled down in United States of America, specifically San Francisco. And there is also a little bit of the Punjabi peasantry, which is basically cultivating some land which this organization holds generally, or these people hold in this area. There's a lot of conflict between American peasantry and Indian peasantry also, and the Ghadar movement was basically coming around that whole concept itself. So the Ghadar movement is actually named after a newspaper which was published, which is called the Ghadar. Ghadar means basically to do a little bit of what we call as what we call as revolutionary activities, that we have to gadar machana, which is to create a little bit of chaos somewhere. So, they used to travel by ships, and the people used to choose to stay here or remain in Canada. And I will discuss that issue with regards to the ships, because there are multiple issues with regards to that. Now, Gadar movement therefore started as a weekly, and Lala Hardayal was the one who basically started it with Sohan Singh Bakhana. Other peoples, for example, were Tarak Nagdas and Ram Das Puri. They were the composition of the Gadar society, and the Gadar whole concept was Punjabi soldiers and peasants who settled in the US generally. And the Gadar Urdu edition came 1st November 1913, and by 9 December 1913 they had the Gurumukhi edition also. Now, the beauty of this paper was, because it was circulating in the US and Canada, and later will also be circulated in the Philippines and all across the world, they could write things which they could not write in India. And that is why on the front page of this newspaper, which is the Gadar newspaper, there used to be always one important, very important article, which was called Angrezi Raj Ka Kacha Chitta, which is an expose of British rule. Basically, what is British rule truly in the whole world in that regard. And being circulated in Philippines, in North America, in Hong Kong, China, Malaya, Singapore, Trinidad, Honduras, and India, it used to talk about 14 points of how British rule is hurting India, and 2 points which used to be how we can move forward. And the way to move forward was the Gadar ki Goonj. That only when the Gadar ki Goonj will be there, that everybody is going to rebel against the British, that it will basically start to become something bigger than what it was. It used to talk about the Anusilan and the Yugantar. It used to even talk about other revolutionaries which were there across the world. And these poems and these debates and discussions, they were quite hurtful for the British image across the empire. Now, Punjabis had already been given a tag, because if you remember, the DFF was the Punjab regiment. So the people used to consider in North America, North India, that the Punjabi regiment was a traitor in the 1857 revolt, and the Gadar movement destroyed this loyalist Punjabi image very quickly, very quickly. So because United States of America is a free country, they could write anything. So very simply, the Gadar movement origin is in the concept of the Gadar paper, and this whole group operating from San Francisco. Are we clear about the context? The Gadar paper, San Francisco, the peasants and the soldiers moving around, and how the British would not like something like this to operate in the whole empire. Are we clear about this? Gadar movement 1913 will become a very big issue for the British overall, because it will create a lot of issues. It will create a lot of true sentiments across the world. Gadar was becoming very quickly a problem for the British across the whole area. Across Southeast Asia, across America, they were creating a lot of ruckus. Too many hurtful sentiments, disaffection being stoked by the Gadar. Are we clear? Peasants from India were traveling along. They were the family members of these soldiers. People were traveling to Canada and America, settling down there. That is leading to a little bit of conflict between the American peasants and the Indian peasants. That is what the Gadar movement, the Gadar body is mediating. But the Gadar newspaper was a pamphlet, a newspaper circulating across the whole world, telling the people Angrezi Raj ka kacha chitta, what is the true self of the British rule across the world. Are we clear about this? Because now there will be a turning point. Gadar movement just wanted to now talk about these people. It was bringing in a lot of these revolutionaries under scholarship programs. They were being brought to America. Right now, it is not very hurtful, other than just being a newspaper. Can I talk about what happens in 1914, and what is called the Komagata Maro incident, which will change the Gadar movement forever? Can we discuss that aspect? Yes? I have established in the past 2.5 hours revolutionary activities in India, which is Anushilan, Yugantar, Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat, and Harding bombing. I've also established to you that there is revolutionary activities happening abroad. Virendra Chattopadhyay, Shyamji Krishnaji Verma, and the concept of what we call today as Madam Bika Ji Kama. And we have also established there was a newspaper which rose in 1913 in San Francisco, which was becoming a problem for the British generally, circulating too much information across the world. Can we now discuss the outcome and what will happen to the Gadar movement and the Kamagata Maru incident? I want everybody's yes, because it is an important incident. As it is, Trudeau now is not in good terms with us, but gave an apology for this incident recently in the Parliament of the Canadian Parliament. Okay. Gadar movement is not all about Angrezi Raj ka kacha chitta. You will see what it is. It's about stoking nationalism in India, stoking nationalism across the world, telling the people about British rule, and giving scholarship to revolutionaries. But now their program will change. Now, when it comes to the change in orientation of Gadar, by just being a newspaper or just helping the people, Gadar had two nodes. One of our rock star friends is sitting here, having done a prayer ceremony for Harding. He was sitting in Canada, he was sitting in Japan, which is Raj Bihari Bose. Raj Bihari Bose's main program was, or main concept was, he had to make sure that if people were traveling to Canada or to America, they could reach easily. So he is a very important part of the Gadar movement because he's a node in Asia. Now, what I'm discussing with you is Lala Hardayal, Sohan Singh Bhakhna operating in America and Canada, Raj Bihari Bose operating in Japan. Now, till 1913, Gadar is just a newspaper. They have not been enticed. There has been no real reaction. The reaction will come because of one major incident which will happen with 322 passengers on a ship, which will change everything. Now, in 1905 and 1910, Canada's immigration policy had been changed because too many Indians were reaching Canada, and this was becoming a problem for the British because in the British Empire, India is ruled with a very heavy hand, whilst Australia or New Zealand or Canada is not that heavily protected or heavily exploited, unlike India. And in order to curb the Gadar movement, and in order to curb Indian migration out of India to Canada, something was very clear, which was that there was a need to do something. And that is basically going to be in these two acts which will be passed, specifically 1910, which is Canada's immigration policy. Under it, two rules were introduced. Now, please pay attention. Two rules were introduced. The first rule said, now pay attention, that if somehow you go from India to Bombay or Calcutta and travel to Canada, either like this or from the Straits of Malacca, go to Japan and to other side of Canada, if you reach there by chance through a direct boat, which was not there itself, you should have 200 pounds in your pocket before you reach Canada. Meaning that when you reach Vancouver or any other port, you should have $200 in your bank account, or rather in your pocket. $200. $200 is a very big amount. Is a very, very, very big amount, wherein every person reaching Canada at this point of time, if he's an Indian, if he somehow reaches it directly from, for example, America or from example Europe, they need to have $200 in their pocket. That's a very, very, very big amount for an Indian at this point of time. And you would have seen that the Canadians till today, along with the Americans, they have certain rules and regulation when it comes to account balances. If you've ever sent one of your relatives, or if one of your relatives is in Canada or in America, or they ever applied for the visa of America or Canada, they have account rules that 5 lakh or 10 lakh should be in your account. Then only they will issue you a visa. This idea was not something which was new after independence. It is there under this rule that 200 pounds should always be in your pocket. Now, very simply, an Indian having 200 pounds is a very big amount. Where 200 pounds is basically asking for example, 2 crores or 20 lakh in the account at this point of time, which is a very big amount. So this is to just make sure that if an Indian is somehow reaching not from India but from somewhere else, if he does not have money, he cannot reach Canada. The British don't want Indians to reach Canada, and this is the first way they are going to make sure that you don't reach there. Are we clear about this? Are we clear about this? Yes. First rule: 200 pounds when you reach Canada. Okay. As it is, no one was going to meet this generally. Now, if I did have to reach, or if I did want to travel to Canada, the viable route which was there at this point of time for an Indian was that there was no direct ship. There's no direct ship between Canada and India. No direct ship. No direct ship at all. Canada was under British rule. Yes, Canada was a British colony, but it's a protectorate that way. At a time of exchange rate, don't go by exchange rates. $200 in silver, gold standard was a very big amount. Why this rule came out? Because they want Indians not to reach Canada. Don't be innocent. They're trying to do this actively to destroy it. Was this account rule only for Indians? Only for Indians. It is only for Indians. Now, no direct ship. No direct ship between Canada and India. And the only way you can actually go, but what about Punjabis traveling along with British Royal Army? They could reach till 1910, till this sector without any issue. After that, this rule applied on them also. Now, the only way you reach is that if you travel from Calcutta, you go to a place called Macau. From Macau to Hong Kong. From Hong Kong to Yokohama. From Yokohama, you reach Vancouver. So basically, if you take a ship, you have to go through the Straits of Malacca, reach till Macau, reach till Hong Kong. From Hong Kong, you reach Yokohama, then cross over the Pacific to reach till Vancouver. It used to take 3 months. So there's no direct link between, there's no ship which goes like this, for example, to Canada. There's no ship like this. There's no direct ship between, before you think that you can go like this to Canada, I'm just removing this. Yes. There's no direct ship exists between India and Canada. So, very simply, the only way you go is this route. Are we clear about it? First rule is $200, already too much for an Indian. Second rule is there is no ship which goes either like this through the Suez Canal or something like this. There's no ship like this. No ship like this at all. Are we clear about this? The only viable route is to go from Calcutta to Macau to Hong Kong to Yokohama to Vancouver. Yes. Why don't they reach Canada? is that is why they don't want to reach Canada. It is a British colony. It's a much more open colony. Gadar movement is operating. It is something which is becoming a problem for the Britishers. Indian revolutionaries are traveling to into Canada as in the form of students. It don't be so innocent as to not understand why the British is doing this. The British is doing it because they want Indians to remain in India so that they can exploit us, and they don't tell everybody what the British is doing across the world. So please don't be so innocent to ask me why is the British doing it. The British is doing it specifically for Indians, does not apply to anyone else. I'm telling you three things. Canadian immigration rules only apply to Indians. They're doing it because they don't want Indians to be there. They don't want Indians to travel to America and Canada and become part of the Gadar movement. Gadar movement is already a problem for the British. Generally, they hate the Gadar movement. Are we clear about this? Because all of you are asking me why? Why? It's an easy point. They don't want Indians to go there. That's a simple point. So they don't want. Americans don't want Indians to go to America right now. We don't want anybody to come to India. So the point is the Punjabi community had become too big in Canada and in America, and they were now starting the Gadar movement. So obviously you don't want it. If there is no direct ship, how the British were trading. Again, Abhishek, I'm saying two different things. I'm saying an Indian cannot try. There is no direct ship between India and Canada, not between India and England. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Why is this rule now then? Because we Indians, if there is no 5 lakh rule, everybody will reach Canada only. Can we talk about this? As it is, we have already a very big diasporic population in Canada, which is becoming a problem now. Other countries already knew about Britain. Other countries are under Britain. Britain controls Canada. It controls Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong. It controls Africa. It controls everywhere. Now the issue is totally different. You are acting like which Britisher, what Britisher? Acha, colonialism tha kya? You are trying to British are Britishers everywhere, but white on white violence will be less. And Indian position is very low. They don't want Indians to go and tell a Canadian that we are getting exploited. Gadar movement and revolutionaries are spreading across. They don't like Virendra Raj Chattopadhyay. They don't like Sohan Singh Bhakra. They don't like Lala Hardaya. This is not happening just because they're stopping Indians to enter. Revolutionary activities are spreading across the world after Curzon Willie is shot. 1910, they changed the Canadian rules. Can I now move forward? Why did not India protest about it? Kisko? To whom will you protest? So if you are protesting, then why don't you remove the British only from India? Why do you not? How is that you are becoming emotional? Canada nahi jaane de rahe. They're not letting us go to Canada. How is this related to you? Can I tell you what is the rule? You are becoming emotional. How? Injustice. I want to go to Canada. And it does not matter to you right now. Listen to me. This is called being distracted. I don't know. Your issues are totally different. So they can go to Hong Kong, other places, protest across India. But let me tell you at least. This is called racism. It's called the rule of colonial difference. The whites don't want Indians to travel and go to white population areas. Now I'm going to ignore all these comments in which there is a level of innocence which I don't know, or you act innocent, but I can't answer it. Simple point is, I have told you that Gadar movement is spreading. With the Gadar movement spreading across the world, there's a need to curb Indian migration to Canada because Canada was becoming an epicenter. In 1910 and 1905, two rules will be brought in to curb Indian movement to Canada. First rule is, if somebody reaches there from a direct ship, then $200 should be in your account. That was already a very big rarity because there is no direct ship. And if you're coming from Europe, $200 is a very big amount. But the bigger rule is, which is based on this concept. The concept, what I'm trying to establish to you is, the only viable route is Calcutta, Macau, Hong Kong, Yokohama, and Vancouver. No direct ship is between Canada and India. Now, can I tell you what is the rule? The second rule. Okay. The second rule says that 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 no Indian will be allowed to deboard a ship if the ship has not traveled non-stop to Canada from India first, and they were very conscious that there is no ship like that. More important, ticket to reach Canada should have been bought in country or region of birth. So they have done two things. If your ship does not go like this, you will be stopped. If your ship does not go like this, you will be stopped. And if you have not bought the ticket in India, you will again be stopped. Now, remember these two rules. One, $200. Second, a ship should be continuous. And second, Canada, when you reach, when I show them the ticket, that ticket should have been bought in country of birth. So if you are an Indian, you have to buy this either at Calcutta or at Bombay or at Madras or at Karachi. Clear? Clear. If I have a ticket, it has to be bought in India and it has to be a continuous travel. Can we remember these 2 points? Because then I will tell you what happened to Komagata Maru. Can we remember these 2 points? And even if you reach there, you still need to have 200 pounds. Remember that point. Even if you reach there, 200 pounds has to be there. Now there were 322 Sikh and Punjabi migrants who wanted to travel to Canada because either their family was there or they just wanted to go to Canada in that regard. And the fact is that you can't go from Calcutta to Vancouver. Can go to Calcutta to Vancouver. So there's a person called Gurdeep Singh. What he does is that he commissions Japanese ship called Komagatomaru. That was the name is Japanese. Komagatomaru. And the route of the Komagatomaru was very simple. From Hong Kong, it would go to Yokohama, and then from Yokohama, it would travel across the Pacific and reach Vancouver. And it was the job of these 322 passengers to travel between Calcutta. So from Calcutta, they have to go themselves via smaller ships till Hong Kong. This is the only way these 322 people can reach Canada. So Gurdeep Singh has commissioned a ship in Hong Kong, and it will take them to Yokohama, and then it will take them to Vancouver. From Calcutta to Hong Kong, it is on these 322 people how they reach. Now, if you look at it, the first rule was direct ship. Does it get established or does it get in a way satisfied? Is it a direct ship? Is the Komagata Maru a direct ship to Canada? No. Very good. Second was the ticket of the Komagata Maru should have been bought in Calcutta, but the ship is getting commissioned at Hong Kong. So is the ticket of the Komagata Maru actually being bought in Calcutta or in Hong Kong? It is getting commissioned in Hong Kong. So does this second rule suffice? Ticket should be in the birthplace of the traveler. No. Now, Komagata Maru, in that sense, was already a doomed ship. The British had become very, very adamant that they would not allow anybody to travel. And in 1914, this decisive ship, some say 322, if you Google it, you will say 367, doesn't really matter. 300 plus travelers will now travel from Calcutta to Hong Kong, and on this ship, they will cross the Pacific Ocean. But as soon as they will reach the Pacific Ocean and cross Vancouver dock, the Canadian authorities will not allow the ship to dock. It will not allow the ship to dock, which is that it will very simply say all travelers except for two travelers who were actually Canadian, who had boarded at Yokohama. They said except for these two travelers, all are ineligible to leave the ship because they don't have direct travel, and the tickets are invalid because they have been taken in Hong Kong. And all of you are Punjabi Indians, so means that you should have bought it in Karachi or in Madras or in Calcutta or in Bombay. Now, ironically, for 3 months, this ship will remain docked. After traveling for 3 months, they for 3 months are just basically on the port. Nobody is allowed to get down. The Canadian authorities will give some amount of food to these people. After 3 months of fighting, where the Gadar activists will literally fight with the British authorities that these rules have been applied after they had left and it does not apply to the ship, the British was adamant that this will not be allowed to dock. People cannot deboard. Very simply, the British will have their last say, and this ship will be asked to go back the way they came. Which is that they will be asked to travel from Vancouver to Yokohama, to Hong Kong, and back to Calcutta. And by the time the people Calcutta they will reach, already 30 to 35 people had died because of the fatigue. And when they will deboard at Calcutta, the British police will try to do, or the police in India will try to do a little bit of a too heavy-handed approach. People were frustrated, and there's a clash in which further 10 to 15 people will die. This is called the Komagata Maru incident, in which a ship traveling from Hong Kong having 322 passengers with 320 to 350 Indians, it was not allowed to be docked in Vancouver, and it was asked to go back to India. And when it went back to India, in the process of doing that, there were multiple deaths, and it was seen as British being very, very unreasonable. And this will stir up the Gaddarites. The Gaddarites will literally hate the way the Indians had been, in a way, had been humiliated on such a packed ship. Think, this is a picture of that ship on the Vancouver port. Think how packed this ship would be with only so much space for one person to stand or sit. 3 months plus 3 months plus 3 months, 9 months on this ship. And this will be seen as, for the Gadar movement, a humiliating moment for India. It's a real picture. Now, what I've established to you is that revolutionaries abroad have operated. Gadarites have basically become too problematic. And because at Yokohama, Rash Bihari Bose was operating, the British knew that. And a lot of Gadarites used to board from Yokohama. The British brought in two rules: 200 pounds on reaching directly, which was impossible. And second, if you reach there, if the ticket is not bought in India, if the ticket is not bought in India, or if the ship has stopped somewhere, there was no ship which would not stop for a 3-month travel. Refueling was needed. There was no ship which could go from India to Canada straight. No ship could ever cross the Pacific in that regard without refueling in Japan. And this will become a disgrace for the Gadarites, and they will now seek revenge. Now, do you understand what is Komagata Maro and why Trudeau had to, in a way, apologize for what the Canadian authorities had done under the British? Because this was, and they had introduced a stamp to commemorate the Komagata Maro incident, and this was seen as a concept of Gadarites now losing their control and losing their cool. Now, what will happen is that the Gadarites will say enough is enough. And in the year 1914, three things will happen. First, Lala Hardayal will be arrested, but he will escape. Komagata Maro incident will happen in March of 1914. And very simply, with 376, 367, 322, doesn't really matter. Different numbers you will get in different places. With 370 or 350 Indians being sent back, now the Gadarites became very active. And what was planned was that now they will stage another 1857 in India, and they will try to do multiple rebellions in India. Which is that the concept was that now we will not remain a paper. We will send revolutionaries to India to enact multiple rebellions. Two such Indians were Kartar Singh Sarabha and Raghubar Dayal Gupta. They will leave from Vancouver and from San Francisco to go to India and stage a major rebellion. Do an assassination, stage a major rebellion. And the concept was that between January to February 1915, there will be 5 cases of political dacoity. Basically, they were looting British vans which had money so that they could fund this rebellion. However, as always, what will happen is 21st February 1915 had been fixed as the armed rebellion in Firozpur, Lahore and Rawalpindi. But somebody from within the Gadar movement itself leaked this to the British, and everybody got arrested, and the Gadar movement was stopped. But in making sure that the Gadar movement stopped, the father of the Rowlatt Act, which is called Defense of India Act, which I will discuss with you tomorrow. Defense of India Acts were enacted to make sure that Ras Bihari Bose, who is sitting in Japan, could be caught, but he will not be caught. But the Gadar movement could be destroyed properly. I will come back to Defense of India Act later. But we started with this understanding. wherein I have now completed the first or the main story in that regard. From revolutionary activities in India, from revolutionary activities abroad to the Gadar movement. Gadar movement will die with the Lahore conspiracy case. Gadar will be destroyed by the British systematically. Everybody will get caught. And Defense of India regulations, which is basically going to be changed name Rowlatt Act, which will be passed later in 1990. Basically, the main story is done. Now I have to discuss with you Morley Minto reforms. Can I do that? Is there anybody who has no idea or is not following with regards to revolutionary activities phase 1 between 1897 to 1915? We have covered from Bengal to Madras to Bombay to Punjab to London to Paris to Geneva to Berlin to San Francisco. We have covered this whole story. I have given you already a timeline so that you understand how it works. Komagata Maro incident is considered to be a turning point. See, I could have just said, very simply, I could have just said, Komagata Maro incident happened. Indians were not allowed to deport or to deboard in Canada. You would have taken it. Somebody of you asked me the details, but I'm trying to tell you that there was a much bigger conspiracy of the British to make sure that Indians don't travel abroad. And I hope that you now understand that the Komagato Maro incident is not a random incident, but a planned conspiracy of the British to make sure. Lahore conspiracy case is the concept in which in 3 places on 21st February 1915, the armed rebellion was going to happen. I will come back to the Lahore conspiracy case, first Lahore conspiracy case, when I will be introducing Rowlatt Act to you. So you have to wait for one class, but generally, are we clear about this? Are we clear about this? This is something which students don't study or are not able to follow because they are not able to link the stories. I've been trying to link the stories, and that is what I'm trying to do here basically. Right? All revolutionary activities are under one. Gadar movement started in Canada and San Francisco in America, wanted to come to India. As soon as it came to India, it got arrested and it went and it basically was destroyed by the British through the Government of India Act, through the Defense of India Act 1915, which we'll discuss. I will discuss Gadar with you again when we'll talk about Rowlatt Satyagraha, Rowlatt Act. Can I now discuss 1909 Morley Minto? Everything which has been written on this page now makes sense to you. This was alien to you. I want everybody's yes. Then we move forward. You don't need to make notes. I've already made notes for you. I've given you the timeline also. This is the importance of this timeline. From Bombay, Bengal, Anusilan, Mitramela, Yugantar to Curzonville to Harding to Gadar. Everything has been given here automatically. Yes, every event is here. Now, we go to Morley Minto. I'm giving you a breather. I'm just drinking water, giving you 1 minute, gather your thoughts. Something totally different now. Totally different, very important, separate electorates. So, giving you 1 minute, drink water with me, or whatever you want to do. 1 minute I'm giving you. Now, we wait till 1:45. Till 45. Anybody who wants to ask something, please write your questions. But little bit of discretion in what you want to ask me. Don't say revise everything, summarize everything. I've already done that. Are we clear? Yes. See, this is not heavy. The problem is just that it's too many events together. This is going to be the case now. There will be multiple things which will happen in India at the same point of time. And that is what you have to understand generally. Okay. Now, can I start again? Gathered your thoughts? Because I want your analytical mind back. What are Lal Bal Pal doing? Lal Bal Pal, by this point of time, INC is not doing anything generally. Lucknow Pact will come, you will see very soon. Kamagatamaro happened in 1914 in Canada and in India. Economic reasons, British reindustrialization could cause Punjabi migration. Saloni reading too much into it. It's not economic, it's more the families are already there. Sure, they have better opportunities, but not deindustrialization. Okay. Will the two rules come in questions? No. It's only for your understanding. Do we study Gandhi tomorrow? Yes, we do. Okay, now. What happened in Canada national movement? Well, apna to kar lo bhai. First you do Indian first. Then you talk about Canada. One of you said Canada was under the French. No, it wasn't. After the 7 Years' War, it went into the British Protectorate. Okay. Now, Indians may go to Australia, New Zealand, but there's no point. Too far away, not real opportunity. Okay. Now, 1909, the Secretary of State at this point of time was a person called Morley. And the Viceroy is called Minto. And that is why it is also called the Morley-Minto reforms. The same way we call it Montagu-Chelmsford. Montagu was the Secretary of State, Chelmsford was the Viceroy. This is the name which has been given to the Indian Council Act 1909. Now, the context for 1909 is very simple. Partition of Bengal has happened. Plus Swadeshi movement had happened. Plus revolutionary activities are happening. This will create pressure on the British. And more than that, Curzon had come up with a very good recipe. And the recipe is called divide and rule. And in all of this, what happens is that in 1906, Muslim League plus the Shimla deputation has also happened. Now, the British were thinking of expanding the central and provincial legislative assemblies. They were thinking of expanding them. And this was a consideration from 1906 onwards itself. And there was also a consideration that we can have some form of election to these seats. So basically, what they are thinking is that if you remember the structure, you have the Secretary of State, you have the GGI and a Viceroy, you have the Central Legislative Council and the Executive Council, and you have the, if you remember, the governors of Madras, of Bombay, of Bengal, of Awadh, of Northwestern Province, and of Punjab. Later, by 1911, another change will happen, which is two more provinces will come, Odisha and Bihar, but that is in 1911, not right now. So, this is basically the structure. And all of them have their provincial legislative councils. Now, if the British want to expand, the seats here, now the question came that, for example, if we want to go for elections, what principle should be applied? And there is this concept of separate electorates and joint electorates with reserved seats. Now, please pay attention. I will explain to you what is separate electorates, and we'll come back. We'll come back to this issue, which is the provisions. Now, pay attention. Today in India, as of right now, 29th November 2023, we have the concept of reserved seats. Yes or no? Are there seats reserved in the parliament and in the legislative assembly for certain communities? Yes, there are. So, for example, this is a constituency. This is one big constituency. And we don't have it along religion, but I'm discussing along religion first with you. Reserved seats plus joint electorate means the following. Means that the total population of this area is 10,000. And there are 5 to 6 different communities, 5,000 Muslims, 1,000 Christians, 2,000 Hindus, and you have 1,000 Buddhists and 1,000 Jains. So basically you have 5,000 Muslims, and the other 5,000 would be 2,000 Hindus and 1,000 others. 1,000 others. Now, today we would be inclined to, or when we have reserved seat plus joint electorate, we would be inclined to do the following, which is, I will reserve the seat of constituency A for a Muslim candidate. Muslim reserved seat. It means that if on this seat anybody will stand, X, Y, Z or W, what will be common between X, Y, Z and W? What is the commonality between these candidates? All will be Muslims. All will be Muslims. Now, I, as a Hindu, Buddhist, Jain or Christian, I have a joint electorate. Joint electorate means that the total number of votes is going to be 10,000. Which means that though these candidates belong to the Muslim community, everyone votes. This is what India follows till today for SC/ST seats, which is the seat could be SC or ST, but everybody in that constituency votes for these people or votes for the candidates. So the total number of votes is going to be 10,000, but the candidate will be Muslim. This is called reserve seat joint electorate. Anybody has an issue in understanding this? Joint electorate. Joint means that everybody is on the electoral roll. There is nobody who has been removed from the electoral roll. Are we clear about this? Very simply, the total population of this constituency is 10,000. 5,000 Muslims are there. That is why the seat has been reserved for Muslims. But because the Muslim candidates are there, or only Muslims can stand for this for candidature, it does not mean that the others have been disenfranchised, which is 2,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Everybody can vote for this candidate irrespective of the reserve seat. Joint means everybody's together. This is not an exclusionary system. This is not exclusionary but inclusionary. Everybody has a say. The candidate can be of any reserved seat, but everybody has a say. I don't understand. What is the aspect you don't understand? Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. I will give you a much simpler example. In this class, there are 300 students. Again, wale sun lo. Now pay attention, people who did not understand. I'm not repeating it again. I'm giving you the least simplest example. There are 300 students in this class, for example, right now. And there are 150 women, rather we'll say there are 200 women in this class and 100 men. 200 women, 100 men. Who should I reserve the seat for? I want a class monitor. Who should I reserve the seat for? I should reserve it for a woman. I say that a women candidate is needed. This seat should be for a woman. I will only accept the majority as the candidature. Don't need to go into it. Don't become a misogynist. Listen to me. A woman candidate needs to be there. That is me deciding. You don't decide it. Now, if I have reserved this seat for a woman, if I say joint electorate, how many total number of votes will come? 200 or 300? 500 तो आ ही नहीं सकते यार, 300 तो लोग ही हैं. 300. Meaning X, Y, Z stood as candidature. Men and women both vote. Does not matter what, it only matters whose the seat is reserved for. Only the candidature is reserved. Men still have a say who will become the class monitor. Does this make sense to you? This is called reserved seat joint electorate. Sir, won't it be reserved for men? Hypothetical situation. It is not about minorities. It is mostly about majority. Hypothetical situation. But I want a women candidate. That is my prerogative. Hypothetical situation. I only want a women candidate. My preference. Now I've reserved this seat for a woman. How many people will vote? Kanchana, why are you trying to bring in justice into this? Why are you trying to bring in social justice? Is this social justice class? I am saying to you that there are total population 10,000. I have reserved this seat for the Muslim. Because I am the British, I want to divide India. What are you confused about? You have to tell me that. What are you confused about? What are you confused about? You have to be specific here. There are people who are confused, but they don't have the courage to say. But that is why in her, I am trying to repeat. Why would the Muslims, and again, here you are going into justice thing. Because the Muslims are in the majority, this seat will become reserved for Muslims only. As it is, the British did not care about that. The British want to divide the population. Your issue is not this that you don't understand joint or reserved. Your issue is that you're bringing in democratic notions. So then that is an irrelevant point. Simple point is, obviously the seat will get reserved for the majority. If there's a very big ST population in a constituency, the seat will always be ST. So either your polity is weak or your social justice is weak. Either way, I cannot go into that. So please understand this point. 10,000 people are there. 22,000, 10,000, 10,000. 10,000 is the total population. Joint electorate means that in the electoral roll, everybody's name is going to be there. Can I go to separate electorates now? Muslim candidate is there, but everybody can vote. This is good for democracy. This is a good system because it is inclusive for everyone. Now, what is the concept of reserved seat, separate electorates? Now, let's go to the same constituency. When we go to the same constituency, A, 10,000 population, what happens is that now the same division is there. 5,000 Muslims, 1,000 Christians, 1,000 Buddhists and Jains, 1,000 Hindus, and the 2,000 Hindus. Now what the British chose was that, or rather what they will choose, if it is a separate electorate, now again the seat will be reserved for Muslim. So till this point it remains the same. Meaning what will be common between X, Y, Z and W? The candidates, what is common between them? They are going to be Muslim. But when it is a separate electorate, only Muslim community will vote. Total number of votes will be how much? Total number of votes, 5,000 votes. In a way, all of them got disenfranchised. And this is how you divide and rule. This is how you divide and rule. Let's take the same example. There were 300 students in class. There were 200 women and 100 men. And if I said that I will apply a women candidate reservation, but it will have separate electorates, then the total number of votes will be how much? Very good, 200. Only the women can vote for the women. Same way, only the Muslim community can vote for the Muslim community. In India, we have reserved seats, but we have reserved seats joint electorates. In British period, what they've done is that they've taken reserved seat separate electorates, wherein they are disenfranchising the communities which may not be in a minority. Separate electorates is a dividing strategy. Joint electorates bring people together. So the concept is that till this point, reserved seats, this remains the same. But you can go for two types, joint or separate. It is in the name itself. In joint, everyone votes irrespective of who the seat is reserved for. Here, only the reserved seat community will vote for the reserved seat candidate. Now, the British, what they did by choosing separate electorates was they have sown the seeds of division. Basically, they say to, and see, when it came to, now pay attention, we are all clear about, 110% clear about what is separate electorate and joint electorate, what is reserved seats and separate electorates. Are we clear about this? Are we clear? Yes. Now pay attention. When it came to deciding, Minto was never very keen for separate electorates. But the Shimla deputation played an important role in changing the mind of Minto. Morley Minto, if I go to the National Archive and look for correspondence, I will find correspondence between Morley and Minto over separate electorates, and Minto was never too inclined for separate electorates. But when the Muslim community showed to the British via Curzon's politics that our issues are separate from the Hindus, now Minto gets a master key. And that master key was that if I will give seats reserved to Muslims and separate electorates, I can create zones in India where Hindu politics does not matter only. What separate electorates does is it disenfranchises people automatically. It disenfranchises people automatically. Now, you tell me one thing. If I'm a Sikh, if I'm a Christian, if I'm a Buddhist, would I not like something like this for myself? In a way, by giving it to the Muslims, you are creating precedents. Because this means that the candidate is ours, the voters are also ours, and we can then control everything. This is why Minto is considered the father of communalism in India. He made sure that now this concept of Muslim is separated from Hindu. Now the Indian interest has been split up. Are you understanding the politics here? Implication is very simple. Separate electorates. Okay. Understand the implication. Till I say that my class has to be a monitor who is a woman, joint electorates, it is a class interest. What you want from me as a modern India batch. However, if I say separate electorate women, means that the agenda which gets pushed is women's agenda. But then the men will also not sit. They would also want separate electorates. What I've done by introducing separate electorates is I have shown to you, or I'm showing to you, that I believe that your interest is not aligned. Your interest is separate. Women have a separate issue. You or men have separate issues. This is a very dangerous thing. This was never something which was there in India, which is separate interest-based politics. This is where communalism has taken root into Indian society. Because now it will be very easy for the British to argue, okay, separate electorates. And the British will do this. You see, they start with the Muslim community in 1909. By 1919, they'll give it to the Sikhs, to the Anglo-Indians, to the Europeans, and to the Christians. And by 1935, they will give it to women. And the biggest point, Pune Pact, the depressed classes will also be given separate electorates, which Gandhi will make a point to remove from the government of India in 1935. Or the whole concept of McDonnell Award, the third roundtable conference, and the concept of Pune Pact, Dr. Ambedkar versus Gandhi. Divide and rule has now got a face. It is called separate electorates. Are we clear about the implications about this? How many such seats don't matter. It's just that by creating this demand, you have created a separate interest. I have successfully shown to you that there are two different Indias. And if I say this women seat women, I have now changed your understanding from being one class of modern India to women and men. And when women and men will be there, if I only listen to the men and if I only listen to the women, what will happen between you guys? the men and the women. What will happen between you two? You will now start to clash. Whose agenda will go forward? Whose agenda will go forward? Now you get it how communalism is based on Curzon's masterstroke and Minto's bastard politics, or his hypocritical politics. You want to abuse him, he deserves that. So, very simply, he has made sure that India would never come together in a way of creating a major disastrous consequence. Majority agenda is not now a majority, it's about separate demands in that regard. Can I now discuss the others minor provisions of 1909? Which is only one, which is for the first time, one Indian will be mandated to be in the Executive Council. Yes, please clear with this where participating law making for entire constituency. Please clear, Ashish, write the answer again. Question again, it's not making sense. It is intentional, it is fully intentional. This is not a innocent politics. Oh, sorry, separate electorates ho gaya. No. It's a proper separate electorates based. It's a conscious decision which Minto has taken. Please be very clear about this. Minto has consciously taken this decision. Okay. Let's see the Indian Council Act 1909. Now, extremism was rising. Curzon had already done something. 1892 had failed. British hesitant about accepting Indians as equal partners. Non-official members are just condemning the legislative process. And now you need to have pacify. But that pacification is going to come with separation. First thing which they will do is they will increase the number of elected members in imperial and provincial legislative council. That was a pretext. Most of them are still indirectly elected, but some have to get elected. Number of members you don't have to learn was not uniform. For example, Central Legislative Council was 69 members. The 69 members, 36 were official. Still, the majority is with the British, but 5 were nominated by non-officials. 27 were elected. This is here that they are going to do politics. 6 have to come from landlords. 2 have to come from British capitalists. So you can see it is still divided. But it is that 27 members which matter. Now, the most important change for the first time was is very significant. It was mandated by this act that for the first time, an Indian should be in the executive council of the viceroy. Before this, people had entered the legislative council. Satyendra Nath Sinha or Satyendra Sinha, same person, Satyendra Nath Sinha, will be the first person to become the law member and become the first Indian to enter the executive council. Same time, 2 Indians will be made part of the India Council. I will make a flowchart, don't worry. And for the first time, they referred to the councils in the provincial legislative councils as legislative councils. The term is used. You will have separate electorates is the second most important concept. Besides separate electorates for Muslims, and there is again one very dangerous principle. They get excess representation to their population. Now pay attention. In India, what is the ratio to create one constituency? One constituency can be created on how much population? In separate elections, the elected members were participating in law making for entire constituency. Yes, that is the point. It is 1 million, 10 lakh, 1 million. Now, basically, if within the 1 million, for example, the Muslims were still in a minority, they were still given excess representation. So it is proper communal politics. So if, for example, they should have got 3 to 4 seats, they are given 10 seats. And the eligibility for a Muslim voter was also lower than a Hindu, the income clause. And that is why this act legalized communalism, and Minto is called the father of communal electorate and communalism in India. Now let me do one thing, which is, let me summarize this, and then we can do Lucknow Pact and we can stop for today. Because I can do Home Rule League with Gandhi also, that is good enough. Now, can I just summarize everything? What happened in Shimla? Muslim Aga Khan Similar deputation showed to Minto that Muslims want this politics also. Okay. So government, no, not Government of India Act, Morley Minto reforms or Indian Council Act 1909. Now, India House, Secretary of State plus 15 members, Governor General of India and Viceroy. Central Legislative Assembly. Does Jinnah support separate electorates? I'll tell you one thing. Jinnah at this point of time is a nobody. Nobody. Nobody cared about Jinnah. Nobody could care less about Jinnah at this point of time. Jinnah was made hero by one person. I will tell you his name later. Is one of the viceroys. Literally made Jinnah his second wife. Name Lilith. Jinnah was a nobody. Between 1906 to 1936, Jinnah was literally a nobody. कोई पूछता भी नहीं था. Who Jinnah, what Jinnah. Nobody cared. It was Lin Lithgow who actually made him a hero. From a zero to a hero. I will tell you that blunder which the INC will do in 1936. Jinnah was created by the INC itself. Because the INC became too overconfident in 1936 elections. So communalism could have been controlled, but it was INC which allowed Muslim League to become too aggressive. Between 1936 and 46, from 3% vote share, they will go to 83% vote share in Muslims. I will tell you that, but have to wait for that. Who is in Lithgow before Waival? Lithgow was there. Lithgow is the real true villain of India in that regard. Governor of Bengal, Madras, Bombay, Awadh, Punjab, and North Western Province. All of them have their provincial legislative councils. Now, what are the two major changes? First change is Indian member mandated by the act, one Indian member, Satyendra Nath Sinha, first Indian to be part of Executive Council. At the same point of time, the second is out of these 15 members, 2 members should be Indian in London to again do a drama. And the biggest change is going to be in Central Legislative Council and each of these PLCs. In all of these PLCs, separate electorates have been introduced for Muslims, expansion of seats with indirect elections. Is this good enough for discussing the three major changes? Other minor changes don't matter to us. Three major changes of Morley-Minto. Okay. Last point. Before I leave you, last point. Now, if you realized one thing, I have not referred to between 1907 and 1915 till 1916. I have not even in one breath referred to the INC. Yesterday was all about the INC, Benares, Calcutta, this, that. Then a shoe is thrown and the INC becomes irrelevant. And basically, the INC really became an irrelevant institution between 1907 and 1916. Because with moderates, they will do prayer petition, holidaying throughout the year in different places. Extremists Lal Bal Pal are not able to do active politics. Revolutionary activities is happening and Morley Minto has been introduced. So by 1916, there's a very big realization that if the INC operates like this, it will become irrelevant. And ironically, the Muslim League was so small at this point of time that it did not want to become too fringe, which is that nobody thinks about it only. And that is why in 1916, there will be a Lucknow Pact with the president as A.C. Majumdar, who said a very important line that divided we fall, united we move forward. He will say that forget the shoe, as it is. Firoz Shah Mehta and Gokhale both had died by this point of time. बोले जिसको जूता लगा, he's not there. The person who was hit by the shoe, he's not there. Let's forget all of this. And let all these old controversies go away. We all said a lot of things, we did not mean it. And the moderates and the extremists realized that political inactivity was not good for the British and either for the INC in that regard. And they will come together. Extremists will rejoin the INC. And very interesting thing happened, which was the Muslim League and the Congress will also come together, where though Madan Mohan Malviya hated the fact that the Muslim League, which had also asked for the 1909 separate electorates, is now asking to become together. Lucknow Pact is considered to be a point of convergence. Congress is now back to its own, and at the same point of time, the Muslim League have also joined the Congress in saying that we will fight together. But that was basically for keeping the Muslim League alive. Now, as I said, I will come back to this. I have taught you everything here except for the Home Rule League. But I want to discuss the Home Rule League with Gandhi because it makes more sense, because Gandhi was back at that point of time. Now, first things first, all of this makes sense to you. Whatever has been made here. INC was only moderate controlled, yes. Why INC was so successful? Other associations, because INC was the only all India body and everybody wanted to keep INC alive. Now, tomorrow we will discuss about a rock star who, once he enters the Indian subcontinent, changes India's politics. And his name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Tomorrow I start with the discussion about the life history of Gandhi, how he studied, why did he go to London, and how he understood. Lucknow Pact is end, yes. Lucknow Pact, okay, everybody is together. because Lucknow Pact will become relevant when I will discuss Rowlatt Satyagraha with you. So please understand this point. Tomorrow's agenda is very important and you have to be here for that. We will talk about Gandhi. We'll discuss Gandhi going to South Africa. We'll discuss the importance of South African experience of Gandhi because not a lot of people talk about it. And once we've established that, we will go and discuss Gandhi coming back in 1915, Gandhi's relationship with the Home Rule League of Annie Besant and Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And we will also discuss how Champaran, Kheda and Ahmedabad will happen. And by Friday, we'll be discussing the first major all India movement which Gandhi was involved, where mass nationalism will rise, which is Rowlatt Satyagraha. We'll discuss Rowlatt Act. We'll discuss Defense of India Act. We'll discuss Rowlatt Satyagraha, Jallianwala Bagh. Jallianwala Bagh, I will tell you multiple new things which should be known to you coming out of the Hunter Commission report itself. And we will discuss the Treaty of Sevres, Khilafat issue, non-cooperation, and the last we will stop in this week once Chauri Chaura will happen, and by next week we'll be moving towards India's independence. So can I stop today here and you are clear about everything? There's no holiday tomorrow. I don't know how holidays come up in your cycle, but I hope everything written on this slide makes sense. This method is working for you and you are able to understand the national movement with a new perspective, at least, in which everything is on a timeline, not independent to each other. Tomorrow we had another personality to this story who changed Indian nationalism forever. Yes? Were rulers, influential people were funding INC, capitalists were. We'll discuss that, Lakshya. That is the difference between Nehru, Bose, and that is why Bose and Nehru did not like Gandhi with regards to that. No extra class on Saturday. Okay, so I see you tomorrow, same time. Sir, this answer is very confused because which answer I've given you, which is confused? What is confusion? Thank you. If you don't have a question, you can leave the session. Thank you so much. Sonia, I'll get that sorted. Okay. Roshan, what is confusing? I don't know what answer I've given to you or the SME is given to you. When will Nehru come into the picture? By Motilal Nehru will come into the picture as soon as we talk about next week, Monday. Swaraj is no changers. And by the end of it, by 1929, Jawaharlal Nehru will become important. Okay. Who is all-time nightmare to British? Everybody. Okay. See you.